DeCastro names National Law Enforcement Week to something YouTube refuses to promote. A mere mention of it sees lowest promotion of videos in months. His own live streams take hit, as YouTube won't condone his actions. Lane Myers promises to either not show up for or to disrupt Friday's hearing to determine if he gets another hearing for bond. Will he make up his mind before Friday, or will he remain generally aggravated? Plus, DeCastro announces another board game delay, but tries to take on more causes? Dude, at least release the transparency app, damn it. I'm your humble newsreader, Pants. You're a lovely flower swept up on a dramatically purple whirlwind of grooviness. And this is Auditing Insanity. An enraged Jose Chili DeCastro declared on his Monday live stream that it was F the Cops Day in honor of National Law Enforcement Week, and to celebrate his proclaimed holiday, he would be featuring anti-police videos featuring what he claimed to be murders carried out by police without justification. DeCastro seemed on edge as he started the live stream, as he experienced more problems with the OBS software. Despite his growing frustration with the software, Playboard estimated that DeCastro peaked at 1,620 live viewers using YouTuber's vertical format on his main channel during the first 20 minutes of his live stream. He then reassured his fans that while he had heavily criticized President Donald J. Dumpster Fire Trump in the past, he was no liberal, as his .44 Magnum was sitting next to him, and liberals did not tend to stand for gun rights. The YouTuber went on to play a video out of Georgia, where a female member of the Georgia State Patrol shot a suspect who was wrestling with her male partner. DeCastro rewound and showed multiple angles on the shooting, gleefully stating that his broadcast was now receiving limited advertising. He then slipped into his JD character and called the Georgia State Police. A new addition to his prank call character is his statement that JD has a blue line tattoo down my back. DeCastro quickly lost interest in the call as he went into a rant about California Governor Gavin Newsom. DeCastro would quickly return to featuring violent anti-police content, justifying it since he had already had his monetization for the video limited by YouTube. He would feature at least one police shooting video during the 4.5-hour broadcast. That video featured rare praise of the police by the YouTuber, as he commended them for killing a suspect who had allegedly just murdered his family with a meat cleaver. Updating the current status of his Constitution headquarters board game, DeCastro again announced that the posters for the game were now hanging in his studio. However, the prototype cards would be done printing tomorrow. It had been over a week since DeCastro promised that the same cards would be done on Friday, and it is uncertain when DeCastro would actually have the cards. DeCastro's DeleteLaws.com still shows 7 pre-sales of the game, along with a May 2025 ship date for the product. Despite devoting the last 8 months to the product, DeCastro has backed away from the promotion of the product or advertising sales of the product in recent days. The YouTuber has focused on sales of his indestructible trifold product in place of the board game on recent broadcasts. Inexplicably, DeCastro then bragged that he was giving away 9 trifolds for every 10 he sales. He said he justified the giveaways by his increased viewership and implied increased revenue from his YouTube channel. Playboard's monitoring software estimated that DeCastro took in $475 in Super Chat revenue during the broadcast. DeCastro promised he would live stream again on Tuesday. Jailed YouTuber Lane Myers promised a disruption at Friday's motions hearing that will determine the possibility of a second bond hearing after Judge D. Douglas Metcalf refused to immediately grant him an immediate hearing on bond during a hearing on Monday. According to our court reporter Judy, Myers made the comments outside the presence of the judge, but in front of prosecuting attorney Rachel Stiles, security, and members of the Pima County Sheriff's Department. Myers had arrived at court on Monday with a stack of motions that he said he was unable to file while in jail. According to our court reporter, he made advisory attorney Mark the Shark Resnick make photocopies of his motions and distribute them to both prosecutor Stiles and Judge Metcalf, causing a brief delay before the hearing started. When asked by Judge Metcalf about his promised motions, Myers said that he was not provided with an envelope to file his motion to force Judge Metcalf to recuse himself from the case until last Friday. He said he still fully intended to follow through with his threat to the judge. Myers would come back to his threat to the judge whenever Metcalf did not take his side during the hearing. Metcalf then set the trial date for the combined set of charges against Myers for July 22nd, a day later than the previously established July 21st, 2025, as his trials are routinely scheduled to begin on Tuesdays. Myers inquired if the entire trial and sentencing would be completed within the 150 days he was guaranteed under speedy trial rules. Metcalf said that as long as the start of the trial started within the 150-day limit, it was fine. Myers disagreed and said that the trial and sentencing must be completed within the 150-day limit and threatened the judge with possible sanctions. Judge Metcalf cut Myers off and told him to file a motion to express his displeasure. Judge Metcalf then set a final status conference before trial for July 14th, 2025. When asked about a public jury questionnaire, Prosecutor Stiles was against the use of the questionnaire, while Myers was for the questionnaire. Both Judge Metcalf and Prosecutor Stiles expressed concern that since the news coverage of Myers' trial was through social media and not normal news media, it would likely tempt potential jurors into seeking out further information on the case by viewing social media. Myers rejected the argument and said that possible jurors would not be able to escape the case, as he was going to be putting up billboards in the Tucson area highlighting the case. When pressed for details about the billboards, Myers said that he would not be attacking the victim in the case, as that would be illegal, and would focus on fundraising efforts to seek donations for his commissary account and for his legal defense. Judge Metcalf asked Prosecutor Stiles if the jail was monitoring Myers' actions while in jail, and if she would be notified if Myers took action that would put him in violation of court procedures. Stiles admitted that Myers was being lightly monitored, along with the social media pages of supporters on both the pro and anti-Myers camps. However, she made it clear that she was concerned about Myers' aggressiveness and said that any violations of procedures or attacks on the victim would negatively impact the current settlement talks with Myers. Myers interjected that the judge could do nothing about the billboards, with the judge responding that Myers was incorrect and that he could issue a gag order. When pressed by Myers to go ahead and issue the gag order, Metcalf refused to do so. Attorney Resnick interjected and said that he would consult with Myers, and if he felt anything Myers had planned would violate the rules of the court, the pair would meet with Judge Metcalf before taking action. Judge Metcalf then ruled against the use of a jury questionnaire. After the ruling, Myers demanded that the judge set an immediate hearing on his demand for a new hearing on bond. According to Myers, this right to a second bond hearing was established in Arizona Revised Rules of Criminal Procedure 74B, which YouTuber Merb points out has been since revised to 74C1. The revised version of the rule reads, generally, on motion or on its own, a court may re-examine bail eligibility or the conditions of release if the case is transferred to a different court, if a motion alleges the existence of material facts not previously presented to the court, or the defendant is unable to post bond due to the defendant's financial condition. The court may hold oral argument or an evidentiary hearing. Myers had attempted to argue that because of Rule 74C1, he had a right to a bond hearing within 7 days of filing his motion for the new bond hearing. He then directly ordered Judge Metcalf to give him his hearing, as the judge had no choice under the rule, and that the prosecution could not object to the hearing. The YouTuber talked over the judge, the prosecutor, his own advisory attorney, and even the court reporter, who begged him to slow down on multiple occasions in making his extended demand of Judge Metcalf. He was firm and clear that the rule he was referring to had put him in control of the courtroom, and that the judge needed to set his trial date within 7 days or face repercussions. Prosecutor Rachel Stiles responded to Myers' claims by pointing out that Arizona's Rules of Criminal Procedure, Rule 72B1B, states, before conviction, defendants charged with an offense not eligible for bail, not eligible based on a commission of a specified felony or any felony while on pretrial release, a defendant must not be released if the court finds the proof is evident or the presumption great that the defendant committed any felony offense while the defendant was on pretrial release for a separate felony charge. Myers had been out on bond for 7 felony charges and 7 misdemeanor charges when he was charged with committing another 3 felonies and 3 misdemeanors. Compounding the situation before the court, Myers' previous attorney, William Parvin, had filed a motion for a second bond hearing before he withdrew from the case. Judge Metcalf was in the process of considering that motion when Parvin withdrew from the case and withdrew his motion. Judge Metcalf ordered a hearing on Friday, May 16, 2025 at 10:30 a.m. to discuss the possibility of a new bond hearing for Myers. Myers attempted to correct the judge by stating it was for the bond hearing itself, as he was entitled to a rehearing on bond and the ability to cross-examine witnesses and re-examine the charges against him. Metcalf explained that he needed to review the motion that Myers had submitted and the opposition by the prosecution. Myers then went into an extended rant, threatening the judge with recusal from the case as he felt the judge was not following the rules of procedure. Myers was eventually shut down by Metcalf when Metcalf stated that the hearing was over. Before the audio stream of the hearing ended, Myers shouted that he would not be attending Friday's hearing. Myers would then make the threat outside the presence of the judge that he would cause a disruption at the hearing on Friday. He screamed that Stiles could forget about a plea deal as he would no longer cooperate with her before being taken out of the courtroom by security. Despite Myers' claims that his case was widely covered by the mainstream media, and with 3 Myers supporters restreaming Monday's hearing, Myers received no new donations to his GiveSendGo account after the hearing. Clash with Bao won the crowdsourcing title for that day with a $250 take, followed by our own ongoing expenses campaign with a $20 take. Myers' next court hearing is scheduled for Friday. In what's becoming the saddest daily announcement, Jose Chili DeCastro announced again on his Tuesday night livestream that the prototype cards for his Constitution headquarters board game were delayed until tomorrow or Thursday, and progress of his game was at a standstill again. During Tuesday's live stream, DeCastro declared that he was starting to aim his product at the homeschooling network, and that he needed to make a jump from his present position, where he addresses 800 people at one time, to a position where he has influence over millions of people, as governor of a yet-to-be-determined state. This is the 4th or 5th time DeCastro has announced the delay over the past 2 weeks, as the YouTuber openly bemoaned his lack of bandwidth in finishing the project, while attempting to take on new projects and get involved with a whole new batch of people. DeCastro made it clear that he gets about 20 emails a day from people who beg him to get involved in their situations with police. At the end of his live stream, for example, he was in contact with Andrew, a sovereign citizen featured in a video where he was repeatedly tased for refusing to cooperate with the police. The man seemed honestly in need of help, as he was facing multiple federal charges from the incident. DeCastro immediately advised the man to drop his court-appointed lawyer and replace the lawyer with the $20 a month version of ChatGPT. DeCastro promised to follow up with the man offline and asked permission to use the man's story in a bigger anti-police fundraising campaign. It's unclear if DeCastro meant fundraising for the man, or if he was concentrating on his own fundraising campaigns. The man mentioned he had his own GoFundMe campaign, but DeCastro didn't pick up on it, nor did he attempt to promote it while talking to the man. Observers note that the man, only identified as Andrew on the call, may be better off without DeCastro's direct involvement in the campaign. Despite billing himself as a master fundraiser and demonstrating the ability to get his regulars to shell out massive amounts of Super Chat money, DeCastro seems to quickly lose interest when fundraising for others, sometimes becoming a detriment to the causes he supposedly supports. A recent example saw DeCastro get a request to create and promote a new fundraiser for good friend Craig Hendry. Hendry needs between $12,000 and $16,000 to make bond for charges out of Sullivan County, Indiana. Hendry is currently in jail in Vermilion County, Indiana, and is set for release at the end of June. He will be transferred to Sullivan County, where he faces more charges to be held until his trial if he does not put up the all-cash bond. DeCastro promoted a random call he took from Hendry and said that he would be editing a recording of the call for release on his channel. He had promised to create a new GoFundMe for Hendry and promote it regularly. It took DeCastro quite some time to get around to creating Craig Hendry's DeCastro-backed GoFundMe, essentially having to be shamed into releasing it by this channel and others. Despite a decent starting take from DeCastro's single-day promotion of the campaign on his live stream, the campaign has sat at $265 for weeks now, as DeCastro has refused to promote it on air. Things are so bad for the campaign that Hendry's own To Support Craig's Work GoFundMe has run circles around DeCastro's version of the campaign, bringing in $420 last month and a total of $1,915 for the year. DeCastro's own official GoFundMe campaigns have brought in no donations for the year. The unofficial Support Delete Laws from the Tyranny He Fights campaign brought in $25 back in January, but that's not a campaign he is officially involved in. None of the 8 DeCastro or Hendry-related campaigns brought in donations on Monday. Our own ongoing expenses campaign took in $1,000 for the day in celebration of our 1-year anniversary, ending, at least for a day, Bao's domination of the crowdsourcing market. Bao himself took in $50 in new donations for the day, while Lane Myers' Give, Send, Go campaign made a surprise return to the charts with a $20 donation. While promoting the fact that he'll take Super Chat donations and put money on Hendry's books, DeCastro simply doesn't promote the crowdsourcing campaign on his live streams. He seems uninterested in doing so, and while he lists Hendry as one of his few good friends, Hendry's June 30th, 2025 deadline to make bond is quickly approaching, and DeCastro doesn't seem bothered to make an effort to support his friend. This may serve as a warning to Andrew or anyone else who makes themselves dependent on DeCastro. He's simply too distracted to help at this point in his life. It would be inadvisable to get involved with him until he finishes his board game, has it on sale to homeschoolers and in big box retail outlets, completes his run for governor, releases his transparency app, launches his press organization to unite all of the auditors of the world under his control, gives hope to millions with his Get Out of Jail Free campaign, puts up his "Hey, I can sleep in my car, copper" document on his website, and of course, learns to use a hammer, none of which is going to be completed in the near future. Playboard estimates DeCastro made $389 in Super Chats from Monday's live stream and was seen by 1,280 consecutive viewers at peak. DeCastro is expected to go live again later today. We need your help. Both ReallyCoolSite.org's daily newspaper and our daily newscasts are funded by your continuing donations and what we make from our YouTube AdSense revenue each month. If you'd like to contribute to help us keep the lights on, eating, feeding the cats, defending ourselves from lawsuit threats, and writing news stories to feature on both the newspaper and newscast each day, you can do so via a donation to our PayPal, Cash App, or GoFundMe accounts. If you can't afford to contribute, please watch our videos from beginning to end, like, share, subscribe, and comment. You can help by doing next to nothing, and we thank you in advance for pitching in.